The European Union is expressing heightened concern following Donald Trump's re-election and his imminent return to the White House. In a recent press conference, President-elect Trump reiterated his interest in acquiring Greenland from Denmark, even suggesting the possibility of using military force to achieve this objective. This development represents one of the most serious confrontations between the United States and the EU in recent history. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot emphasized that the EU would defend its borders, underscoring the gravity of the situation. In addition to the Greenland issue, President-elect Trump has pledged to impose tariffs on the EU to protect American interests. He has also pressured the EU to purchase American oil and gas, aiming to reduce Europe's energy dependence on other sources. These actions suggest that 2025 may present significant challenges for the EU. Compounding these geopolitical tensions are existing energy supply concerns within the EU. The transit of Russian gas through Ukraine ceased on January 1, 2025 after Ukraine declined to renew the transit agreement, citing the ongoing conflict with Russia. This cessation has led to increased energy prices and supply challenges, particularly for countries like Slovakia and Hungary that relied heavily on this route. The combination of geopolitical tensions and energy supply issues indicates that the EU faces a complex landscape in 2025, requiring coordinated efforts to ensure stability and security. In this analysis, we delve into why EU leaders might be deeply concerned about Trump's imminent administration and what it means for Europe's future. Revisiting Trump's first term. During his first term, Trump's administration frequently clashed with Europe, with disputes over NATO funding, tariffs on European goods, disagreements on climate accords, and unpredictable tweets causing abrupt shifts in diplomatic tone. For Europe, accustomed to more measured multilateral engagement from the United States, it felt like navigating a roller coaster without a seatbelt. Key issues of concern. The Greenland controversy. In 2019, during his first term, Trump expressed a genuine interest in purchasing Greenland from Denmark. A proposal met with skepticism and firm refusals from Danish and Greenlandic officials. His interest stemmed from Greenland's strategic location and its rich natural resources, including rare earth minerals essential for modern technologies. Additionally, melting Arctic ice is opening new shipping routes, reducing reliance on traditional passages like the Panama Canal. Denmark, which maintains sovereignty over Greenland, has consistently rejected selling the territory. In response to renewed US interest, Denmark has announced plans to bolster its military presence in the Arctic with investments in patrol vessels, drones, and additional personnel to secure Greenland's future. The EU, viewing Greenland's geopolitical importance with increasing concern, aims to avoid conflicts that might arise from external pressures on Denmark or Greenland. Energy security and US LNG push. Energy security remains a critical concern for Europe. President-elect Trump has reiterated his stance from his first term, urging the EU to increase imports of American liquefied natural gas, LNG. In a recent post on Truth Social, Trump stated, "I told the European Union that they must make up their tremendous deficit with the United States by the large-scale purchase of our oil and gas. Otherwise, it is tariffs all the way." During his first term, Trump criticized countries like Germany for their reliance on Russian gas and pushed for diversification of energy sources. This led to a significant increase in US LNG imports, making Europe a key market for American energy exports. Currently, the US is the largest LNG supplier to the EU, accounting for approximately 48% of the bloc's imports in the first half of 2024. A second Trump term is expected to intensify pressure on Europe to further increase LNG purchases, potentially tying trade deals to energy imports or imposing new sanctions to deter European countries from buying gas from competitors like Russia or Qatar. These measures could disrupt Europe's energy balance, leading to higher costs and hindering progress toward renewable energy adoption. Long-term agreements that don't align with Europe's evolving energy strategies could undermine efforts to achieve energy independence and sustainability. Europe's response. European officials have expressed a willingness to engage in discussions to strengthen energy cooperation with the United States. European Commission spokesperson Olaf Gill stated, "We are ready to discuss with President-elect Trump how we can further strengthen an already strong relationship, including by discussing our energy cooperation." These dynamics underscore the complex challenges Europe faces as it navigates the geopolitical landscape of 2025. Common interests in the energy sector. The EU faces internal challenges in formulating a unified response. The bloc's energy policy is influenced by the diverse interests of its member states, making it difficult to commit to large-scale purchases on behalf of all 27 countries. Moreover, the EU is committed to phasing out energy imports from specific sources, adding complexity to negotiations with the US. The situation remains fluid, and the EU's approach will likely involve a combination of diplomatic engagement and strategic planning to mitigate potential economic disruptions. The overarching goal for European leaders is to maintain economic stability and cohesion within the bloc, while addressing the challenges posed by the incoming US administration's trade policies. Europe's energy crisis and volatility. The European Union is currently grappling with a multifaceted energy crisis, exacerbated by several recent developments. On January 1, 2025, Ukraine ceased the transit of Russian natural gas to Europe following the expiration of a pre-war agreement. This decision, driven by national security concerns amid ongoing conflict, disrupted a long-standing energy supply route. While the EU has significantly reduced its reliance on Russian gas from 40% of imports in 2021 to less than 10% in 2023, certain member states, notably Austria and Slovakia, remain heavily dependent on these supplies. The halt has prompted these countries to seek alternative energy sources to mitigate potential shortages. Qatar, a key supplier of liquefied natural gas, LNG, to Europe, has threatened to halt exports if the EU enforces its new Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. This legislation mandates stringent standards on environmental protection and labour practices, with penalties of up to 5% of a company's annual global revenue for non-compliance. Qatar's Energy Minister Saad Al-Kaabi argues that such penalties are disproportionate and could compel Qatar to withdraw from the European market, potentially disrupting LNG supplies to the region. The EU is facing a particularly harsh winter characterized by limited wind and solar activity. These conditions have led to a significant reduction in renewable energy generation, increasing the strain on the energy grid. Consequently, the EU has had to rely more heavily on its energy reserves. However, the accelerated depletion of these reserves raises concerns about sustaining energy supply throughout the winter months. These challenges underscore the EU's urgent need to diversify its energy sources and enhance energy security. The cessation of Russian gas transit via Ukraine, potential disruptions from key suppliers like Qatar, and the variability of renewable energy output due to adverse weather conditions collectively highlight vulnerabilities in the EU's current energy infrastructure. Addressing these issues is critical to ensuring a stable and sustainable energy future for the region. Elon Musk's role in European politics. Elon Musk's recent interventions in European domestic politics have raised significant concerns among EU leaders, who fear such actions could undermine the bloc's unity and stability. In December 2024, Musk publicly endorsed the far-right Alternative for Germany (AfD) party, stating on his platform X, formerly known as Twitter, "Only the AfD can save Germany." He further amplified his support by authoring an op-ed criticizing traditional parties for their failures. This endorsement drew sharp rebukes from German officials. Chancellor Olaf Scholz indirectly addressed Musk's interference in his New Year's address, emphasizing that Germany's elections will be decided by its people, not by social media owners. Additionally, Deputy Chancellor Robert Habeck described Musk's actions as a frontal attack on our democracy. Musk's involvement in UK politics has also sparked controversy. He criticised Prime Minister Keir Starmer's handling of historical child sexual exploitation cases, accusing him of failing to address grooming gangs. Starmer responded by condemning the spread of lies and misinformation on social media, highlighting the harm such false narratives cause to victims. Musk's comments have been linked to increased online harassment of UK officials, further straining political discourse. Beyond Germany and the UK, Musk's actions have alarmed leaders across Europe. French President Emmanuel Macron and Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre have expressed worries about Musk's attempts to influence European politics. Viewing them as potential threats to democratic processes, the European Commission is currently investigating whether Musk's platform complies with digital regulations, particularly concerning the spread of hate speech and disinformation. EU leaders fear Musk's interventions could exacerbate political polarization within member states, potentially weakening the union's cohesion by promoting far-right parties and disseminating controve. Effectiveness. Donald Trump has called for NATO allies to increase their defense spending to 5% of GDP, a significant rise from the current 2% target. He argues that the US bears a disproportionate share of the alliance's financial burden and insists that European nations should contribute more to their own defense. This demand has sparked debate among NATO members, with some European leaders expressing reluctance to commit to such an increase. In February 2024, Trump suggested that the US might not honor its defense commitments to NATO allies that fail to meet their defense spending targets. He stated he would encourage Russia to do whatever they want with nations not fulfilling their obligations. This rhetoric challenges NATO's foundational principle of collective defense under Article 5 and has been criticized by NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg, who warned that such statements undermine the security of all member nations. Trump's stance could have several implications for NATO. Erosion of trust. Questioning the US commitment to defend all NATO allies may lead to a loss of confidence among member states, weakening the alliance's unity. Encouragement of adversaries. Conditional defense statements could embolden adversaries like Russia to test NATO's resolve, potentially increasing aggression in regions such as Eastern Europe. Internal divisions. Pressuring allies to boost defense spending may cause friction, particularly among economically constrained nations, leading to internal discord. These developments have prompted discussions within NATO about the alliance's future direction and the importance of reaffirming mutual defense commitments to maintain collective security. Climate agreements and green policies. President-elect Donald Trump's recent statements and policy proposals have raised significant concerns among climate experts and international leaders about the future of global climate action. Trump has indicated plans to withdraw the US from the Paris Agreement, a pivotal international treaty aimed at mitigating climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. This move mirrors his 2017 decision to exit the accord during his previous term. The European Union has expressed alarm, with EU Climate Commissioner Frans Timmermans warning that such a withdrawal would seriously undermine global climate efforts. Timmermans emphasized the need for other countries to intensify climate diplomacy in response. Meanwhile, the Biden administration recently finalized rules for clean electricity investment and production tax credits under the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, aiming to cut US emissions significantly and save consumers billions on energy costs. Trump, however, has vowed to dismantle these measures in favor of increased fossil fuel production. Treasury Deputy Secretary Wally Adeyemo cautioned that rolling back these incentives would hinder US participation in the global clean energy transition. Trump has also criticized the UK's plan to reduce North Sea oil and gas production, advocating instead for increased drilling. This stance contrasts sharply with the UK's efforts to transition toward renewable energy. Experts warn that Trump's return to the White House could have a profoundly negative effect on climate change action, as his previous term saw the rollback of numerous environmental regulations. A potential US withdrawal from international climate agreements and the promotion of fossil fuels over renewables could undermine global efforts to address climate change. Tech giants and regulation battles. In recent years, the European Union has implemented stringent regulations targeting major technology companies, including the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, the Digital Markets Act, and various antitrust investigations. These measures aim to enhance data privacy, ensure fair competition, and curb monopolistic behaviors among tech giants, many of which are American firms. With Donald Trump's potential second term, there may be increased resistance to these EU regulatory efforts. Notably, Elon Musk, a prominent tech entrepreneur and Trump ally, has been appointed to co-direct the newly established Department of Government Efficiency. Musk's influence could lead to a more confrontational stance against EU regulations perceived as unfavorable to American tech interests. Tech industry leaders such as Mark Zuckerberg, Sundar Pichai, and Tim Cook may find a more supportive environment in Washington under Trump's administration. This could embolden them to lobby against EU regulations and possibly advocate for retaliatory measures, such as tariffs targeting Europe's digital economy. Such actions could escalate transatlantic tensions, complicating Europe's efforts to regulate tech giants effectively. The EU's regulatory framework, encompassing over 100 tech-related laws and involving 270 regulators, has been criticised for its complexity and potential to